If you've ever wondered how you can be more compassionate or kind to yourself, this video is for you. If you've been to my channel before, welcome back. If you are new to my channel, my name is Ross and I'm an intuitive counselor. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about self-compassion. And first of all, get an understanding of what that is, and then, how is it that we get to a place where we can't be compassionate or kind towards ourselves, and talk about the stories that might come into play or the experiences that might contribute to that. And then ultimately how to work with that and how to bring in more self-compassion into our everyday life. So let's first start with the word compassion. And years ago, I was given this definition of compassion, which I really appreciate because it's very simple and I love simplicity. And at its core, compassion is about simply being with. So compassion is about being with. And what that means is, being with somebody, just where they are, meeting them at that equal level, not having any expectation, not trying to change anything, not trying to fix anything, simply just being with that person. And so self-compassion is therefore being with yourself, being with you. And that's where it gets complicated, of course. Depending on the experiences that you had, the developmental experiences, the early experiences as a child, you may have stories that are repatterning themselves throughout your life that have created a template that is opposite to compassion, opposite to being with. You may have had experiences that you were left to be with your own devices emotionally. You may have felt that you weren't heard. You may have felt that you weren't seen. And all of those can create this ongoing story of, things that I talked about in the core belief videos, like not good enough, not smart enough, not funny enough, not quiet enough, all the things that we can be told. And those things get in the way of compassion. It's the very opposite of compassion or being with. And it means that we start to distance ourselves from parts of ourselves. In other words, we kind of alienate parts of ourselves. And ultimately, I know I've talked about this many times in different videos, it's like we have to turn down the volume or completely shut down the most innocent part of ourselves. We have to numb that part of ourselves that doesn't feel safe. And, just to bring in a personal example, one of the things that I was told, and I might have said this in another video, is that I was told as a kid that I was too sensitive, that I took things too personally. And in hindsight, it makes total sense that I was sensitive. It makes total sense that I was so tuned into my environment and influenced by it. And so I'll actually share a story that it doesn't really have anything to do with sensitivity, or maybe it does. When I was probably around 6 or 7, my family decided to buy me a bike. I'm not sure what time of year it was or what the impetus was. It may have just been time to get me a bike. And the Coles Notes version of the story is that they ended up buying me a used bike from the bike store. And I, as a child, had this like really big desire to have a new bike, like the other kids on the block. But instead I got a used bike, and they painted that bike red. And the story that came from that, because I didn't want that bike, I wanted a new bike and I wanted to have what I wanted. And so the thing that came from that was this belief and this story of my voice isn't heard. What I want doesn't matter. And that thread or that story kind of came as this underlying thread throughout my life. And the thing about that is that has an impact. If we believe that and our inner dialogue is perpetuating that story of I'm not heard, what I want doesn't matter, then it's creating our core beliefs, of course. But it's also making it very hard to be compassionate for ourselves. And that leads me kind of to this final place of like, how can we bring compassion to ourselves? How can we talk to ourselves? How can we be with ourselves. And in this case, with my story that I shared, it's like that younger part of me. How can I be with that innocence, the part of me that as a child had desires, that part of me as a child that had needs? How can I be with that part? And I think the easiest way to kind of characterize this dialogue is to imagine how you might, if you were imagining at your workplace training somebody new, or if you were imagine trying to teach a child something, what's the energy that you would bring? You might get down on their level. You might talk differently. Your voice might lower and become more soft. How would you talk to that child or that new employee to create understanding, to let them know that you're with them, that you're here to support them, that you're here to guide them, that you're here to teach them and support them in whatever way is needed as they go through this learning? That nature, that energy of what I'm describing, of how you would externalize that with a child or someone that you're training, is the same energy that we need to turn inwards and bring to ourselves. And so we might say things to ourselves like, of course you feel this way, given the experiences you had as a kid. Of course you feel this way, given the pain that came along with that. And it's okay to feel that way. And to really help that part of you understand that you are there with them and that nothing needs to change and that you're just there to console them, to be with them, and to be with that part. And personally, like this idea of inner child, it can get kind of complicated. And so just think about it as your innocence. Think about it, you're speaking to your innocence, to that young part of yourself that had to turn down the volume on joy and wonder and all those things, curiosity, all those things, sensitivity, if I think of my own story. And speak to yourself at that place. And what happens over time is that this is very different than the voice of the inner critic. This voice of self-compassion is caring and kind and supportive and loving. And eventually, this dialogue starts to be the dialogue that is happening, rather than this dialogue that is born from a place of pain. So as with everything else, this is a process. It's something that takes time. It's something that takes awareness, something that takes consciousness. And, you could also, if it's easier for you to write rather than having those kind of internal dialogues, you could journal around it. You could do some automatic writing. And either way, it's about speaking to this young energy, this young part of yourself, and bringing that self-compassion and kindness and simply being with that part and not trying to change anything. So I think I'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you know someone who might benefit from this video, and please go ahead and share it with them. If you're curious about the work that I do as an intuitive counselor, you can go to my website. The link is in the description. And I'm so grateful to be with you today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again in future videos. Wishing you unconditional love. Bye for now.